The defense is weird. When you look at the total numbers, they again held their opponent under 300 yards. They did, for the most part, they did their job. But the safety, the short field touchdown after the debacle on the reverse, like, they played much better than the final score. They allowed 29 points. I think 20 of those were legit. But it's still...
It wasn't a great performance by the defense at all.
By no means was it a great performance. But when you look at the yards allowed,
I know.
Like, my God, that's a game that you think you're going to win.
You were right there.
I think there's two things that as I have to go back and watch all 22 to really be definitive in what I'm going to say. So I'll just preface it with I think this will happen. Anthony Walker was sorely missed inside. You look at the way they were running the ball and they were running these trap plays. They noticed something with our defensive tackles being in two eyes, which is, inside shoulder to the guard. That's a large gap to be covered by Taki. And I just thought they did a good job of running trap plays, really quick plays in the middle. And our defensive linemen didn't do a good enough job of shortening the gap, which is basically saying, don't get washed down and create a hole.
Yeah.
When somebody's pushing you, you got to hold your gap right there so that the ball carrier has to declare either I'm going to go outside or inside. But if you get caved in, that means there's a whole side that can go, lane right in the middle.
And there were lanes too often.
A lot.
By the way,
first
if you
quarter.
just looked at the stats, which none of us did because we all watched the game, you would say Russell Wilson. I thought Russell Wilson played a hell of a game.
He made plays in spots
every time when he needed to.
Yeah,
and he
was run.
He was diagnosing something, as you said, about the defense. That was him.
Pizza.
That play, they took a play out of the Indianapolis Colts playbook. Gardner Minshew was killing us on the read option. They did it one better. They said, listen, we're going to identify who it is, and then we're going to put our running back leading out to block. Mark Sanchez gets excited because he's like, oh, that's a touchdown, because he realized that the running back was not even in there to get the ball. That was a design run off a read option look, and Myles Garrett crashed down, which is his responsibility to take away the run. However, they had a lead blocker in front of him. He goes for 13 or 14 yards, and then they flipped the play and ran it back the next time. So I thought that Russell Wilson did a good job of just slowing the pass rush down by doing little things like that to make them aware that, hey, I could pull this thing down and run.
We were wondering if Sean Payton was going to make it through the season. Yeah. I mean, and rightfully so, after how poorly they looked, and really the team clearly gave up in Miami. But what they've done after that loss is really nothing short of miraculous.
6-2 and 5 in a row.
5 in a row now, and very much in the playoff mix.
Yep.
JOK, let's talk about him for a second. Game of his career, I think.
Best
he was
game.
Everywhere.
Best
Made
defensive
some
player.
huge plays.
11 tackles, 2 for a loss, a sack. I thought he...
Did he have a strip
punch
fumble
out?
too?
He had the punch out.
Punch out.
He had the punch out.
JOK played awesome.
He was
phenomenal.
everywhere.
Best defensive player in the field. Best defensive player in the field.
Talk about great turnarounds.
Looked unblockable. He was just running around underneath blocks, over top blocks. Even when you blocked him, he still had a great job of tackling the guy in the backfield, even when a guard was on him. I thought he played with speed. I thought he played great.
Cedric Tillman, and Jerome Ford. Those are the MVPs of the game.
Yeah. And when those are your MVPs, you probably have an out.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, you got to score. They had one rush. Denver had one rushing touchdown all year, and then on 2 of their early drives, they had rushing touchdowns against the Browns defense that you wouldn't think would give up a lot of rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, well, Javonte Williams is finally getting healthy, and he looked better. Samaje Perine ran very well.
Perine ran great.
Yeah.
Alex Wright seemed to get a lot of reps. Even before Myles
hurt
his shoulder. Alex and he had 2 offsides.
Lord.
I know.
Which isn't great.
How do you line up in the neutral? I mean,
there's no excuse for that.
That is just that's a mental lapse.
And they haven't had a lot of the, like I think Kevin said they were just sloppy, and they were. And he said they didn't play a clean game. And they had a lot of mistakes that really they haven't had this year with pre-snap penalties or unforced errors, some of the false starts, the lining up in the neutral zone, just some of the nonsense stuff that just, like some of the holding calls, okay, you're gonna get those. But man, it's some of these other unforced penalties that just kill them.
That's the mental. There's a thing to be said about it. And I've played where, and I this isn't as bad as this, but I played where we ran the triple option. And so if you talk about compromised quarterback play, there's no more compromised position than being down 10 points and guys are running fullback dive in the triple option. And there's a level of, I don't know, it's a level of mental fatigue that you get, that you have to answer the bell every time. They know it. Hey, like you said, when they went down and they scored, you wanted the offense to get the ball right back.
Right.
There's a thing for a defender it's just fatigue because you're like, we can't give up this, we can't give up that, the normal stuff we can't. Just being able to having to carry the load for pretty much the whole team, it gets to you after a while. And compound that with injuries, you're going to have some issues.
But when a team's got a great quarterback, and maybe it's an unfair comparison because it's one player versus an entire defense, but when a team has a great quarterback, when you have Patrick Mahomes, you expect him to play great all the time.
Sure.
He doesn't always play great, but you expect it all the time. Well, the Browns have a great defense, so I expect them to play great all the time.
But they're going to lay eggs.
Yeah.
And they have a couple this year. Doesn't mean they're not a great defense. I think they still are. By most metrics, they're the best defense in the NFL
But
this
without
year.
Myles Garrett, they won't be. Not
Of course
great.
not.
They'll still be
Well,
good.
you take any unit's best player off of it, and there's going to be
Two best.
There's going to be a big regression.
That's true.
Yeah,
Two
I mean,
best.
if Ward
Denzel Ward
misses more time,
Watch it, ask Tyvis. They played more zone coverage than I've seen. And
well, they had to, right?
Yeah, they got to because I seen Sutton break off a traditional regular in route, and Newsome was
20
out.
yards behind him.
He was out at the Rockies ballpark. I said, "Dang, Newsome, where you at?" He's in a parking lot, and then he got beat so bad he just had to get the trot behind. I'm like, is that a deep over route? Did he break him off And it was just a dig. And I knew from that point, I said, "Oh, we in for one. They're going to have to play some zone back here because this is not a man that you could put man-to-man. You could put somebody on like that."
It's the same thing like Garrett. When you lose your best pass rusher, your entire pass rush is going to suffer. And when you lose your best cover guy, your entire back end is going to be in somewhat of disarray. And there were times yesterday where it looked like it was.
Watch that back end there, Mike.
Yeah,
I will watch that back end. G, what's the tilting point for a defense when you know your offense may be unable to score as many points as necessary and you have to bring your A game? Is just being in playoff contention enough to keep the defense motivated to essentially try and bring an A-plus game every week, knowing the offense may not be able to score 14 or more points?
See, human nature is a monster, right? The same way we be at home, right? And they got that little that after the fumble reverse.
Yeah,
that was a wrap. I could tell you that was done.
Yeah,
it was like because
they felt the same emotions.
They
we did.
felt the same thing because they're like, we in it. We just need a couple things to fall our way. But when that sudden change, and they practice sudden change, right? They do it in camp and they do it during the season, and we practice, being able to come off the sideline and come in and stop them, hold them to a field goal. But there's a certain thing that ain't going to help for. One of them is, you had sudden change and Myles Garrett looked like he hurt. That's a wrap. And you down the corner. It's
and your quarterback had just gone out.
And you got P.J. Walker in. So they like, I am not about to go out here and get injured. I still got to come back next week against the Rams. Fold it up. It looked like one of them games where it's a back-to-back in NBA. It's back-to-back night NBA. If it's that first night and you getting beat by 15 and it's 10 minutes in the fourth, wrap it up. Wrap them cords up. We got to go across the street to the Staples Center. Get your starters out of here. That's exactly what it was that day. Bye.
Yeah, he's right on the human nature thing. Whether you're a player or a fan, when there is a momentum shift like that, it's palpable. And the crowd, I thought their crowd is still one of the best in football. Yeah. I mean, they were loud yesterday.
And Russ didn't give you nothing.
No, Bull said that. I mean, he wasn't great.
No.
Yeah, but he wasn't killing you.
What I mean, he didn't give you anything he didn't give you anything to eat off of. Russ came in there with the business suit Russ.
Right.
You ain't getting no turnovers.
Oh,
Russ.
yeah, right.
We're not about to throw Hail Marys and get creative out here.
Yeah.
We're going to turn around and be very efficient and get y'all out of here.
And you know what? That's an ugly game plan, but it works.
Yes, it
does. The
does.
Browns have done that a number of times for victories this year. That's why I thought coming into this, don't overcomplicate it. Do what you do, and it just happens to match up with what they can't stop. So just feed it. Go with it. put the onus on them to be good at something they haven't been good at.
Well, hopefully this is it'll serve as a reminder.
Will it?
Well, well, listen. He played a dangerous game last week. He's gonna have to play some more dangerous games. Like, especially if it's Joe Flacco. You can't line up and run read option with him. So you're going to have a very special game plan ready to go.
Yeah.
You know, one thing, I know we moved off quarterback, but I just thought of this. I got to mention this. This is going to be such a difficult week, I think, for them practice-wise. You're out of your element, first of all. You're at UCLA, so you're not at home.
Right.
That was by design.
Yep.
That's fine. But who are you giving the practice reps to if DTR hasn't cleared protocol? Let's say he clears Thursday or Friday.
I think you got to give him the
gotta be
flag.
But you know what I mean? Like, DTR needs these reps too. He's young.
Yeah.
He needs these practice reps. But Joe's been golfing and sitting in the bar.
Sure, Joe needs him.
So I don't.
Right,
this,
but DTR can't practice.
no, but I'm
until he's
saying
cleared,
if he
right?
right. But I'm saying if he clears protocol Thursday
or Friday.
I'll play him.
just for instance.
You play him?
I would 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
Joe
If he's
take-
cleared, he practices and gets all the reps.
I'm just saying it's hard for me because you need to get Joe. You're back to needing to get two guys ready almost, and maybe they rule him out early in the week. I don't know how severe the concussion is. I don't know. But I'm just saying, if it's like a Thursday, Friday clear, and he doesn't really get many practice reps, what do you do? I just think they're in a really tough spot this
It is
week.
tough.
Or
And
if
DTR real
he
quick-
gives him the reps, or you give him the reps, he comes back, he gets jarred again, or gets roughed up a little bit. Now what do? You got PJ Walker and Joe Flacco with no reps.
And Harrison Bryant, don't forget him in the quarterback room.
Brother-in-law.
It's just-
I
it's
swear to
we
goodness.
kid.
I don't
I'm
think
gonna
we
find
wanna-
out
real
here.
quick,
Listen,
DTR
as far as the
tweeted out
Rams,
last
Kyron
night.
Williams is a good player, and he's done a nice job. I don't think we want to overstate how good they are. They played the Cardinals. The Cardinals are the worst defense in the league.
I'm not even worried about them so much.
Yeah.
I just mean practice reps are so important. I think we dismiss it. I think we dismiss that. Just
Not
get them ready
true.
for Sunday.
No,
just
I
get them
mean,
ready for Sunday. And with the
we
position that
found
the
out how
Browns are
important
in,
they were earlier this year.
and especially with the position the Browns are in, with the guy off the street and this fifth-round rookie who still is raw. He's so raw. He's had a couple of weeks as the expected starter, so he's gotten a couple of those Wednesday, Thursday, Friday reps. The practice reps, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, are so important.
Yeah,
and we just seem to dismiss it sometimes as just get him ready for Sunday.
No, you're right.
And
We've
it's
seen
not
it with
how that
Watson not
works.
getting enough practice.
And Bull, here's
well,
the
hell, with DTR's first start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw what that looked like.
This is the way I think about teams from now on. I said it's just going to be a tough game against Denver. There are no bad teams in November.
What are the Rams? 5 and 6? They're
5 and 6, correct.
Yeah.
I believe there are no bad teams when in November and December hit.
I'm not saying the Rams are bad. We don't
No,
want
I'm
to
saying-
overrate them also because of a win over the Cardinals.
I think they can. The Browns. This is it's the NFL. I think Browns can beat anybody on that list. They can also get beat by everybody on that list.
Anybody have any concerns about the normal distractions that aren't there when you're practicing at home all week? They're in L.A. There's a lot of stuff to see and do in L.A. There's other things to steal your football focus away. Any concern of that?
I'm not.
I don't think they're built like that. I don't think the Browns are built like that. I think they got to. That's one thing I give Stefanski credit for. They don't have a bunch of Manziels or Josh Gordons, and they usually toe the line. You don't have disciplinary stuff like that, and the guys. They got a good leadership pool of guys in there. I don't think you have to worry about that.
These are still young, rich, single guys in their early 20s in LA for a week. So, yes, I think there is absolutely, especially early in the week, if you follow a normal week, they're off on Tuesdays. What happens Tuesday? What happens tonight? Monday night, going into an off day.
What happens on Tuesday stays on Tuesday.
So, but I would be
Only
more
in
concerned.
Vegas.
I like to think that because you're in season, there's less risk than if it was July. Like if this was when they were in West Virginia, there's probably more concern of guys getting into trouble. But again, they're young single millionaires in their 20s in LA for a week. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of concern, but hopefully, obviously they took that into account when they chose to do it this way. And I think that the reward of it's almost having that West Virginia Greenbrier effect again of we're here, we're
Yeah.
together, we're going to spend the week together. It's almost a carryover of
It's
of what they
absolutely the
built.
right
And
call
not
to
having
do
to
it.
do the travel.
You just can't do
Yes.
that travel back and forth.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
The Patriots have done this before, and I've talked to people with the Patriots who don't like doing this, who feel like stick with the routine, stick with the regiment. Yeah, it's a long flight, but stick with what we know. Don't get us out of our normalcy. But the Patriots are famous for doing this, going and staying out west and spending the week there. They've had a lot of West teams come east and stay out here
Sure.
when you do back-to-back games. And, they schedule them this way. They ask the league, if you're going to do this to us, please put them back-to-back so that we can stay there. And I think that's what happens.
There's a reason that teams from the East, when they go west, lose games. It's been well documented. It's been, and vice versa. But the body clock and adjusting to that, it's never easy. Now, when a West Coast team does it and they don't come more than a day ahead of the game, their clocks are really screwed up for a 1 o'clock kick.
Yeah, sure.
Because to them, it's 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
If you worry about extracurriculars, or they got anybody on this team that's worried about going out clubbing, doing different things, then I'm overestimating what the culture is in the locker room.
Right.
That's the old Browns. I'm expecting y'all to be locked in. You got a great opportunity. You 7-4. Everything you want to do is in front of you, and you guys is out moving around like that. Like, that's just not. That's something terrible teams do. You can be on a 1-10 team and do that, but I expect the guys to have some sort of restraint and to like lock in. It's a great opportunity. Hey, I'm thinking about, I'm in LA. Let me get 2 picks in LA. Let me get some sacks in LA, especially for these young guys, because there's some opportunities for these young guys to play. Y'all should be in y'all playbook. Be ready to go, because Myles looked like he might. You know what it is? Hey, listen. Hey, old boy, what's his name? I forgot his dog.
Denzel Ward.
No, the receiver.
Amari Cooper.
Cedric Tillman.
Cedric Tillman. Have a day. You out west, have a day, son. We've been asking about you all year. David Bell, where you at? You good?
Business trip.
Business.
Was that the best game by a Browns third-round wide receiver in 3 years?
Well, that's not saying much, but it was.
Yeah. David Bell never had 60. I know Schwartz never had 60.
Schwartz had one long run on a reverse, right, or on a pitch. He had one long run.
That doesn't count as a good game.
That's what we missing on them reverses.
Yeah.
Schwartz.
Bring him back.
I do got one segment.
He's available. He's available. He knows.
Hey, but I watched Detroit on Thanksgiving Day. I couldn't find DTR with
DPJ.
or
DPJ.
DPJ.
Get the initials right.
I couldn't find him. I
didn't play at
know.
all.
Out of sight, out of mind. I forgot his name.
I don't
already.
think Anthony Schwartz is even on a practice squad.
No.
I don't think
No, he
is
did. He
either.
got signed to Miami's practice squad.
Oh, he did.
Oh, that's
He
right.
did
We talked
a few
about
weeks
that.
ago.
No,
Hey,
you
real
sure
quick.
about that? I thought he tried out, but they didn't sign
I
him.
thought he ended up signing. I'll double check after I
thought
do
he was working
it
at
FanDuel.
Kohl's.
As the weather gets colder, the NFL deals stay hot at FanDuel, and right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app is simple to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.